Yo guys, it's Kid Glare once again. This time I'm bringing you a part 2 of hints and tips on how to do well, get a high KD and drop zone while still playing the objective. In part 1 I spoke about the best perks to be using for your classes, on how it will help keep your deaths low, blah blah, all of that stuff. If you haven't seen it already, check it out. In this part 2 I want to talk about the best gun setups and what guns to use in conjunction with them perks. Just a few hints and tips. Obviously you can put your own little spin onto it yourself, which best suits you and make it more personalized, but these are just a few hints and tips and starters for those of you who have no clue on this new game mode. Firstly, if you're going to use the blast shield perk or the assassin perk, I usually recommend using a submachine gun. This is purely because aiming down sight with a submachine gun is a lot easier than any other guns, especially assault rifles and light machine guns, because it'll have a big delay. So if you're aiming down the sight at an enemy, their gun is obviously heavier than a submachine gun, whereas with a submachine gun you can aim down sight a lot quicker, have the upper hand over your enemy and just take him out while still having the benefits of the perk which you're using. Submachine guns I find are really good for this, especially for hip firing and close range combat on the drop zone itself. With the submachine gun I'd recommend using either extended mags, because then you can take out a lot more enemies without having to reload, especially if you're not using sleight of hand as your first perk. You don't have to reload as much, meaning you can get more kills and clear the area before having to reload. Or of course you can use a suppressor. If you're not using the attachments proficiency where you can use 2, I'd recommend using the suppressor. This way you can find a nice spot on the drop zone and just camp it off, getting the points for your team, playing the objective while being unseen by the enemy and taking them out one by one, just picking them off. You don't have to run out kamikaze on this game mode, just play it smart and just pick off the enemy. You can get points through walls, so if you are looking to play the objective, try and find a good camp spot. Like for example in this part of the map here where the drop zone is, I found this little corner, but I figured it wasn't really the best place, so I decided to move to the back of the hill, which is on the other side of the drop zone, but I'm still playing the objective and I'm still getting the points while staying out of the sight of the enemy. So yeah, you can get points through walls. Bear that in mind when you're positioning yourself on the drop zone to get those points, and it'll help you to stay on the drop zone for a lot longer. Also, another thing which I'd like to stress, bear in mind this is my view alone, that there is more to playing the objective than actually being on the objective directly, if you know what I mean. You don't have to be on the drop zone to be playing the objective. If your teammates are on the drop zone taking the points, capturing the points and winning it for your team, you don't necessarily have to be on the drop zone to be playing the objective. For me, I see it as if you're around the drop zone taking out enemies but not actually getting points for the drop zone, you're still playing the objective. Bear in mind, while keeping your enemy off the drop zone is also part of the objective of this game. So don't stress and feel that you have to be there getting the points for the drop zone. You don't necessarily have to be on the drop zone to be playing the objective. For lethal equipment, I'd recommend using, maybe you can use claymores to place around the drop zone while you're on the drop zone in order to take off enemies that enter the drop zone or enter the area while you're actually on it. You could also use C4s, where you could put it on the drop zone and then run away from the drop zone if you're not actually planning on taking the points but still keeping the enemy off. This way, if you see the capture sign turn red, then you'll be able to let the C4 off and hopefully get a few kills which will contribute towards your ratio while still keeping the enemy off the drop zone. You could also use bouncing betties, but I don't really find these effective, usually because when people are on the drop zone they're usually prone anyway, so usually bouncing betties don't have much of an effect, but these can come in handy as well. For tactical equipment, I'd recommend the trophy system. This is because it'll protect you from airstrikes, grenades, predator missiles, all of those sort of things. So trophy system is good for defense. Or of course you could use the EMP grenade. That's another thing which comes in handy. This is purely because there'll be a lot of sentry guns, SAM turrets set up around the drop zone. So throwing one EMP grenade could take out all of their equipment at once. You could not only frustrate the enemy and be a bit of a pain in the neck for them, taking out their equipment, but it also help you get onto the drop zone and keep your deaths low, all those sort of things. So EMP grenades are also helpful. If you're only planning on going for kills, or if you haven't unlocked these yet, like I haven't, which is why I'm not using them in the video, then I'd recommend concussion, because then the enemy can't turn around as quick. They're also flashed momentarily, even though it's not as long as flash grenades. But yeah, those are very effective on drop zone, especially because a lot of people will be on the drop zone at once, so you can stun all of them at once, allowing you to get multi-kills, which will also to contribute towards your ratio, which is the whole aim of this video, getting your ratio up. Another key technique, which is probably the most effective in terms of getting your kills up really quickly, is taking the care packages which are dropped onto the drop zone. This is why sit rep is such a good idea to be using in this game mode. Taking those care packages, you could be getting a nice air support, kill streaks, which will get your kills up. You don't even necessarily have to be near the action to be getting your kills up. Of course, you want to be playing the objective, so you will be near the action, but you don't necessarily have to be near the action to get your kills up. And this is the most effective way, because it'll give you an advantage over the enemy by far, seeing as they can't earn kill streaks, they have to steal them. So not only will your air support get you kills, but it also stop them from getting the care packages and being on the drop zone, which will keep your deaths down as well. So that is the most effective. Unfortunately, we do lose this match, so you can see that winning this game mode isn't purely down to you, it is down to teammates, seeing as you only get 20 points for being on the drop zone. You need more than one person to each get 20 points to get your drop zone points up. But yeah, it does depend on teammates, which is why it's best to play this in a party, so you can take all of these tips and put them in together so that they all work in one. If you can make them all work in one, for example the trophy system as well as the bouncing betties and the claymores, it will be really effective. But if you're just going in by yourself, it will depend not only on you but on your teammates as well. This is Killer Glare, giving you the hottest hits and tips on how to do well in drop zone consistently while playing the objective. Signing out. Please enjoy the rest of the gameplay. Thank you very much.
The war is not over. We will make them pay.